The playoffs are where players build their legacy. It's how we ultimately judge them. It's what separates the good from the great and from the legendary. That's what we're going to do here in the ultimate 100 greatest playoff runs by a player. Before we get started, I'm going to briefly discuss the criteria for this ranking. For one, I use a combination of per game statistics, advanced metrics, and the number of times they gave us an all-time moment or game. What also factors in is how much they struggled during the postseason. The more complete the playoff run was, the higher they will be on the list. Also, the less the players lost, the better their chances of having a better ranking. With that in mind, I am only using players that are able to at least reach the finals. Without further ado, let's start the countdown. Number 100, we have James Worthy in 1988. As we'll do with each player, here are the per game averages for his 1988 postseason. This playoff run has been made famous for how he performed in Game 7 of the finals. He recorded 36 points on 68% shooting, 16 rebounds, 10 assists, and 2 steals. That performance allowed him to win Finals MVP. But more importantly, his 3 best scoring games came when the Lakers desperately needed a victory. Number 99, we have Sam Jones in 1965. The Bill Russell era of the Boston Celtics rarely needed a dominant scorer to carry them in the playoffs. This postseason was the exception. They barely escaped Wilt Chamberlain and the Sixers in the division finals, thanks to in large part Sam's clutch play. He averaged 29.1 points for that 7-game series. Then the finals against Jerry West and the Lakers, he averaged 27.8 points. Number 98, we have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in 1985. At 38 years old, we have never seen a player bring so much value to a championship winning team. What's even more impressive is that he kept getting better with each round. His most inspiring performance came in the finals. Take for example Game 5, with the series tied at 2 apiece. He had 36 points on 57% shooting, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 blocks. In the end, he became the oldest player to win Finals MVP. Number 97, we have Dave Cowens in 1976. He did a little bit of everything for the Celtics. He contained the NBA scoring champion, Bob McAdoo, to nearly 5 points below his scoring average in the semifinals. He's only one of 10 players on this list to average over 20 points and 15 rebounds. Game 1 of the finals perfectly illustrates his all-around excellence. He posted 25 points, 21 rebounds, and 10 assists. The only other players to have a 20-20-10 game in the finals are Bill Russell, Tim Duncan, and Nikola Jokic. Number 96, we have Elvin Hayes in 1978. The Washington Bullets needed to go through George Gervin and Julius Erving, and the Big E gave a solid performance on both ends of the floor. Like all the legendary big men that will appear on this ranking, he was the team's leading scorer, rebounder, and shot blocker. He was 32 years old at the time, so he couldn't stuff the stat sheet as he used to. But there were times when he gave a vintage performance. Take Game 4 of the conference finals, when he had 35 points on 63% shooting, 19 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 2 steals. Number 95, we have Scottie Pippen in 1991. The Chicago Bulls went 15-2, which is one of the most dominant playoff runs by any team. They wouldn't have accomplished that without Scottie. They added another 20 points per game scorer along with Michael Jordan. He helped get the others involved, and he played a key role in the Bulls' stifling defense. Take for instance Game 1 of the conference finals against the Pistons. He had 6 steals and 5 blocks. That is only the 3rd time in NBA playoff history that a player recorded at least 5 blocks and 5 steals. Number 94, we have Manu Ginobili in 2005. His per game numbers might not pop out from the screen, but his advanced metrics do. He currently ranks among the top 35 for the highest win shares, offensive win shares, and value over replacement player rating. What's even more impressive is that he got those numbers while coming off the bench for 8 games. His value couldn't have been felt more in the finals. With everyone from the Spurs struggling on offense, Manu seemed to make one big play after another. If it was me, he would have won the Finals MVP. Number 93, we have Magic Johnson in 1980. Believe it or not, he was not the Lakers' point guard that season. He had a more positionless role, and the numbers certainly indicate that. He nearly averaged a triple-double, which has only been done 4 times, but no one's ever done it while also winning the title. He proved how versatile he was in the iconic Game 6 of the finals. He played every position on the floor. With Kareem out, he drove the Lakers to the title. He recorded 42 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 steals. He became the only rookie to win Finals MVP. Number 92, we have Jason Tatum in 2024. The Boston Celtics have one of the most dominant playoff runs. Someone has to be rewarded for that, and Jason gets the cake for me. He led the team in points, assists, and rebounds. His shooting efficiency took a hit, but he did a good job of impacting the game in other ways. He's not necessarily known for his all-around play, but he became a great one to help Boston destroy one team after another. Number 91, we have Walt Frazier in 1973. The numbers on the screen show how excellent of an all-around performer he was. The New York Knicks were the underdogs for the last 2 series against the Celtics and Lakers, but he managed those games well. Take for example his clutch performance in the conference finals. In Game 4, he had 37 points on 50% shooting, 9 rebounds and 4 assists in the classic double overtime victory. Then he led New York past Boston in Game 7 on the road. Number 90, we have Karl Malone in 1998. For the second consecutive year, he drove the Utah Jazz to the finals. They relied heavily on Malone to produce on the offensive end, and he delivered. Utah's second leading scorer in the postseason was John Stockton, who averaged only 11.1 points per game. That had something to do with his drop in efficiency, but he still held his own against the tough Western Conference opponents. Number 89, we have Clyde Drexler in 1992. For the second time in 3 years, he led the Blazers to the finals. He went for his playoff career high in the first round series against the Lakers. In Game 3, he had 42 points on 61% shooting, 12 assists, 9 rebounds, and 2 steals. In the second round, he notched his career high for points in a playoff series. He averaged 31.4 points on 51% shooting, 8.2 rebounds, and 7 assists per game against the Phoenix Suns. The only negative aspect is that his play went down in the final 2 rounds. Number 88, we have Bill Russell in 1965. This playoff run features the highest defensive win shares of his career. Most of his damage came in the finals when he dominated a short-handed Lakers team. Without Elgin Baylor, he assured that they wouldn't get any offense going. Take for example Game 5, when they held the Lakers to 25 points below the regular season average. Number 87, we have Steph Curry in 2018. Points have to be taken away because he missed the first 6 games of the playoffs. The Warriors only lost 1 game without him, but they needed his services when they played the 65-17 Houston Rockets in the conference finals, and he delivered. With Golden State down by double digits in the second half of Game 7, he led the third quarter charge by scoring 11 straight points. Then in Game 2 of the finals, he had 9 3-pointers. That is an NBA Finals record. Number 86, we have Kobe Bryant in 2002. The word to describe this playoff run is clutch. In the second round, the Spurs had no answers on how to stop him in the fourth quarter. From games 3 to 5, he scored over 10 points in the final period. That includes a game-winning putback in Game 4. With the Lakers facing elimination in the conference finals, he had 31 points on 50% shooting, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists in Game 6. Then he had the best final series of his career against the New Jersey Nets, who was a top 3 defensive team. Number 85, we have Dwight Howard in 2009. He posted the 21st highest win shares for a single playoff run. He played a major role in the Magic defeating 2 60-win teams. He led them with his dominant defense. He had 60 total blocks, which is just outside the top 10. He also came up big when his team really needed it. Take the conference finals against the Cavaliers when he went toe-to-toe against LeBron James. In Game 6, he had 40 points on 67% shooting, 14 rebounds, and 2 blocks. He imposed his will and carried his team to the finals. Number 84, we have Kevin Garnett in 2008. The advanced metrics also make a compelling case for him. He posted 11th highest defensive win shares since his shot clock era. This was the Celtics' biggest strength, and Garnett was the anchor of their legendary defense. There were 6 times when they held their opponents to under 80 points. He gave this team its championship identity. He also came up big in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Detroit Pistons. With the series tied at 2 apiece, he went for 33 points on 65% shooting. Number 83, we have Tim Duncan in 2007. He didn't dominate the stat sheet, but the way he managed these games was a work of art. He knew how to pick his spots, and he gave a masterful defensive performance. He also proved that he could step up when his team really needed him. He turned back the clock in the second round against the Phoenix Suns. He averaged 26.8 points on 57% shooting, 13.7 rebounds, and 4.2 blocks per game. In the series-clinching Game 6, he nearly had the unconventional triple-double. He had 24 points, 13 rebounds, and 9 blocks. Number 82, we have Larry Bird in 1981. His all-around excellence was on full display for his first championship run. But what got the Celtics over the hump was his ability to elevate his game in pressure moments. That was especially the case in the conference finals against the Sixers. They won the series in 7 games after being down 3-1. For their last 3 victories, they won by no more than 2 points. And in Game 7, he made the classic game-winning bank shot with less than a minute left, ending such an intense series. Number 81, we have Magic Johnson in 1982. At the time, no team had ever swept their way to the finals. The Lakers dominated their opponents thanks to Magic's relentless fast break attack. No team has ever pushed the ball up the floor with greater speed and skill than what the Lakers did. Take for example Game 1 of the finals against the 76ers, when they went on a 40-9 run in just 11 minutes of play. In the end, he won the finals MVP for the second time in 3 years. Number 80, we have Larry Bird in 1985. He was on his way to having a legendary playoff run. For the first 8 games of this postseason, he had 3 40-point games. He averaged a combined 32 points on 51% shooting, 10.5 rebounds, and 6 assists per game. But shortly after this, he re-injured his right index finger during a scuffle at a bar, and then he injured his right elbow. That's why he suffered a major shooting slump in the final 2 rounds. For those 2 series, he averaged a combined 22.5 points on 44% shooting. This next one is a twofer. At number 79, we have John Havlicek in 1968. At number 78, we have John Havlicek in 1969. With the numbers side by side, you can see that his production was very similar. Let's start with his 1968 postseason. He was the team's leading scorer and facilitator. He played a big part in helping Boston become the first team to come back from a 3-1 series deficit against Wilt Chamberlain and the Sixers. He also had a dominant performance in title-clinching Game 6 against the Lakers. He had 40 points on 50% shooting, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists. In 1969, it was clear that he was the team's best player. This was in fact Bill Russell's and Sam Jones's final season. He played his best for the finals. Against the first ever super team, he averaged 28.3 points on 46% shooting, 11 rebounds, and 4.4 assists per game. He had a 43-point performance in Game 2, and he was the team's leading scorer in that classic Game 7. He scored 26 points on 58% shooting. Number 77, we have Bill Russell in 1963. If you wanted to see Bill Russell provide more scoring, he did that for this postseason. He averaged over 20 points, 25 rebounds, and 5 assists per game. Only Wilt Chamberlain has been able to do the same. He also had a clutch performance in Game 7 of the division finals against the Cincinnati Royals. He had 20 points on 57% shooting, 24 rebounds, and 4 assists. During that season, the New York Times wrote that if Bill Russell doesn't score a point, he's one of the finest players in basketball. But when he was scoring like this, there was no stopping him. Number 76, we have Willis Reed in 1970. The Knicks faced some tough competition. The centers he had to face were Wes Unseld, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Wilt Chamberlain. Willis Reed was extraordinary in each series, most notably against the Baltimore Bullets when he had 36 points and 36 rebounds in Game 5. But he saved his best for last in the finals. For the first 4 games, he averaged 31.8 points on 49% shooting, 15 rebounds, and 3.8 assists. Although he went down in Game 5 with a serious leg injury, he wasn't done impacting his team. In the infamous Game 7, he decided to play with one good leg. That motivated his team to a dominating victory. Now we've reached the top 75. At number 75, we have Anthony Davis in 2020. His advanced metrics are historically great. He currently has the 14th highest offensive win shares and 20th highest win shares. And among players who reached the finals, he posted the 12th highest PER ever. As far as his play, we saw him dominate the Blazers in the first round with a 43-point performance while shooting 78%. He made a buzzer-beating three-pointer in Game 2 of the conference finals against the Nuggets. And in the finals, he averaged a productive stat line of 25 points on 57% shooting, 10.7 rebounds, 3.2 assists, and 2 blocks per game. Number 74, we have Kyrie Irving in 2016. For the first 3 rounds, he did a commendable job of playing off LeBron and scoring at a high level. But he had an all-time performance in the finals. He played a big role in the Cavaliers being the only team to ever come back from a 3-1 deficit in the finals. He scored 41 points on 71% shooting in Game 5. This is the only time that a pair of teammates scored over 40 points in the finals. Then in Game 7, he made what many consider the biggest shot in NBA history. He made a 3-pointer that brought a title to Cleveland. Number 73, we have Jerry West in 1966. The numbers that you see on the screen are staggering, but we have to keep in mind that he only played 2 series, so it was a little easier to put up great numbers. In the division finals against the St. Louis Hawks, he scored 35 points on 56% shooting in Game 7. In the finals, he scored over 40 points twice against the mighty Celtics. And the Lakers were only 3 points away from coming back from a 3-1 series deficit. Against a historically great defensive team, he averaged 33.9 points on 52% shooting. Number 72, we have LeBron James in 2007. The numbers say he was a bit inefficient, but who could blame him when his second scoring option is averaging 12.6 points? He did so much on both ends of the floor that pushed the Cavaliers to an improbable finals appearance. He didn't need to score a bunch of points to make his mark on the game, but he had the game of his life in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Pistons. He scored the team's final 25 points in their double overtime victory. He ended up with 48 points on 55% shooting, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals. Even in the beginning, he knew how to carry a team to the finals. Number 71, we have Jimmy Butler in 2023. He was at his most impressive in the first round against the second seed Milwaukee Bucks. He averaged 37.6 points on 60% shooting, 6 rebounds, and 4.8 assists per game for the series. In Game 4, he had 56 points on 68% shooting. That is tied for the 4th highest playoff scoring game. Then in Game 5, he made an incredible shot that forced overtime and pushed the Heat to a stunning first round victory. He was able to lead his team past the 2 best teams in the East, and Miami became the 2nd lowest seed to reach the finals. Number 70, we have Luka Doncic in 2024. The Mavericks were not expected to reach the finals, but he exceeded our expectations. His all-around greatness is what stands out the most. He had a total of 7 triple-doubles, which is tied for the 2nd highest in playoff history. He never produced that monster stat line that we're used to seeing with him, but he had a few clutch moments. His biggest one came against the Wolves in the conference finals. In Game 2, he made this crazy 3-pointer with 3 seconds left that won the game. Number 69, we have Steph Curry in 2019. For the moment Kevin Durant went down in Game 5 of the second round series, he had a historic run that nearly pushed the Warriors to a 3rd straight title. In Game 6, he had a 23-point fourth quarter that ended the Rockets season. In the conference finals against the Blazers, he had the best series of his career. He averaged a ridiculous stat line of 36.5 points on 47% shooting, 8.3 rebounds, and 7.3 assists per game. He also shot 43% from the three. That is currently the third highest scoring average for a conference finals series ever. Number 68, we have Magic Johnson in 1984. Let's start with everything he did right. He recorded the most assists in a playoff game. In Game 2 of the second round series, he had 24 assists. He then recorded the most assists in a finals game. In Game 3, he had 21 assists, along with 14 points and 11 rebounds. Unfortunately for Magic, this playoff run is famous for everything he did wrong. It was running out the clock in Game 2, and it was all the uncharacteristic mistakes that he committed in Game 4. As great as he was for 90% of that postseason, those mistakes might have cost his team a title. Number 67, we have Julius Erving in 1977. The Sixers went from being bounced from the first round in the previous year to reaching the finals in his first season in the NBA. He deserves credit for the way he led this team that was full of talent but didn't always mesh well together. He started by unofficially ending the John Havlicek era of the Boston Celtics in a tough 7-game series. In the finals, he had the greatest series of his NBA career. He averaged 30.3 points on 54% shooting, 6.8 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2.7 steals per game. He played excellently in defeat, but he ran into a better team and a better player. Number 66, we have LeBron James in 2015. He came back home to a super team, but his all-star teammates went down with serious injuries. LeBron was forced to become a volume scorer, which is not his style. His field goal percentage suffered because of it, but he made up for it by doing everything else at a high level. His greatest moment came in the semifinals when he made a buzzer beater against the Bulls. They also swept the 60-win Atlanta Hawks in the conference finals without Kevin Love, and he won 2 games by himself against the 67-win Warriors. It makes you wonder what could have happened if his team had been fully healthy. Number 65, we have Magic Johnson in 1991. This was the Lakers' first season without Pat Riley, so they ran things a little differently. But when you have the greatest point guard of all time, he's going to strive no matter what. For example, there were 3 games where he recorded over 20 assists. Just to put that in context, only John Stockton has recorded more than 3 20-plus assist games in the playoffs for their careers. Overall, Magic posted the 4th most assists ever. Then there was a game where he recorded 42 points on 52% shooting, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists. Number 64, we have Hakeem Olajuwon in 1986. He started off making history. There have only been 3 times in playoff history that a player has recorded over 5 blocks and 5 steals in a game. He did it twice in the same series, which occurred against the Nuggets. Then in the conference finals, he dominated the defending champions. The Lakers won 62 games that season, but lost in 5 games. He averaged 31 points on 52% shooting, 11.2 rebounds, 4 blocks, and 2.2 steals per game. They were later outmatched against a historically great Celtics team in the finals. But in Game 5, Boston suffered their second worst defeat that year thanks to Hakeem's 32 points, 14 rebounds, and 8 blocks. Number 63, we have Moses Malone in 1981. He was the main reason the Rockets became the only team to reach the finals with a losing record. He started by sending the defending champions home in the first round. In the short 3-game series, he outplayed the reigning MVP, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He averaged 31.3 points on 51% shooting and 17.7 rebounds. His best performance came in the conference finals against the Kings, when he posted 42 points and 23 rebounds. In the finals, the Celtics were all over him and forced him to a low 40% shooting for the series. But that doesn't change the fact that this team overachieved thanks to the greatness of Moses. Number 62, we have Kevin Durant in 2012. The analytics say that he was very valuable to his team during the postseason. His performance proved how great he was. He started off making a game winner against the Mavericks in the first game of the playoffs. Then against the Lakers, he made the game-winning 3-pointer that gave the Thunder a 3-1 series lead. Then against the Spurs, who had the best record in the league, he averaged 29.5 points on 53% shooting, 7.5 rebounds, and 5.3 assists. He had a tough road to the finals, and he played great against all those legends. Number 61, we have Jerry West in 1970. Here's what I know. If the three-point line existed during this time, he would have won his first championship. All we have to do is point to Game 3 of the finals when he made one of the most iconic shots ever. Making a buzzer beater is one thing, but doing it from half court is another. Since the Lakers were down by 2 points, that would have won the game. Instead, they lost in overtime and eventually lost the series in 7. Putting the what-ifs aside, he led the Lakers from a 3-1 series deficit against the Phoenix Suns in the semifinals. He also did a great job of scoring at a high level and getting others involved. There were 3 games where he recorded over 15 assists. Number 60, we have Isaiah Thomas in 1988. We'll first start with the statistical case. He recorded the most steals ever. He had 66 total. He also posted the 9th highest defensive wood shares, and is the highest by any non-big man. That gives an idea of how valuable he was in nearly every aspect of the game. That was highlighted even more so in Game 6 of the finals. He had 43 points on 56% shooting, 8 assists, 6 steals, 3 rebounds, and 1 block. What makes that even more impressive is that he sprained his ankle in the 3rd quarter. Despite being in a lot of pain, he scored 25 points in that period. It's one of the most inspirational performances that we've ever seen. And if it wasn't for a controversial call late in that game, this could have been the most impressive playoff run as far as the degree of difficulty. He would have defeated Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and Magic Johnson. Number 59, we have Larry Bird in 1987. The Celtics were banged up. They had several key players that were playing through serious injuries. They needed Larry to carry his team, and he stepped up in a major way. Against the Bucks, he had 2 40-point games. His best performance came in the double overtime thriller in Game 4, where he had 42 points on 57% shooting, 8 assists, 7 rebounds, and 2 blocks. But one of the most iconic moments in NBA history came against the Pistons in Game 5. It's the Bird steal that saved the game and their season. And just when you think he couldn't be more clutch, he had 37 points on 54% shooting, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, and 2 blocks in Game 7. Number 58, we have Isaiah Thomas in 1990. The Bad Boy Pistons started the first 8 games by blowing away their opponents with 6 double-digit victories. But they were pushed to the limit when they faced Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. He wasn't scoring at his normal efficient rate, but he affected the game with his tough defense. Then in the finals, he had the best series of his career. He posted career highs in points and field goal percentage. He averaged 27.6 points on 54% shooting, 7 assists, and 5.2 rebounds per game. His best performance was in Game 1 when he scored 16 points in the 4th quarter. That completed the comeback after being down 10 points with less than 7 minutes remaining. Number 57, we have Jerry West in 1968. This is the most efficient that he's ever been in the playoffs. Out of 15 games, he shot over 50% for 12 of them. His best performance came against the Warriors in the conference finals when he scored 40 points on 70% shooting, along with 8 assists and 6 rebounds. In the finals, he played against a Boston Celtics team that held All-Star guards Dave Bing and Hal Greer to 41% shooting. But Jerry West averaged 49% shooting against them. Number 56, we have Wilt Chamberlain in 1964. What he did for the San Francisco Warriors was almost miraculous. This was the same team that won only 31 games in the previous year, and Wilt carried them to the finals. In the division finals, he faced a St. Louis Hawks team whose starting 5 are all in the Hall of Fame. His best performance came in Game 5 when he had 50 points on 69% shooting, 15 rebounds, and 6 assists. For the series, he averaged 38.6 points on 56% shooting and 23.4 rebounds. Unsurprisingly, they got crushed by Boston in the finals. but it was an incredible feat just for the Warriors to reach the finals. Number 55, we have Kobe Bryant in 2008. For the first 3 rounds, Kobe was a monster. He started by torching the Denver Nuggets in the first round with his all-around play. Game 2 was his most dominant performance. He recorded 49 points on 67% shooting, 10 assists, and 4 rebounds. But his best series came against the defending champion Spurs in the conference finals. This was a top 3 defensive team, and Kobe produced the most efficient shooting series of his career. He averaged 29.2 points on 53% shooting. That series includes a game-winning jumper that he made in Game 1 that completed a 20-point comeback. Number 54, we have Jerry West in 1965. Here's the context for this postseason. Elgin Baylor missed the entirety of the playoffs due to an injury he suffered in the first 5 minutes of their first playoff game. That is where Jerry West decided to shoot for the record books. His 40.6 points per game average is the second highest mark ever. His performance against the Baltimore Bullets is arguably one of the greatest one-man shows ever. He recorded over 40 points or more for every game. He averaged 46.3 points, which is the highest scoring average for a playoff series. Number 53, we have Dirk Nowitzki in 2006. The per game numbers might not blow your mind, but his advanced numbers will. He recorded the 3rd highest win shares and the 11th highest value over replacement player rating. The numbers are historic, and so were his performances. Take Game 7 of the semifinal series against the Spurs. He made a tough and-one layup that tied the game, and then he made the game-saving block. In the conference finals against the Suns, he had the game of his life in Game 5. He recorded 50 points on 54% shooting, 12 rebounds, and 3 assists. This was not a team that had a great supporting cast, but he made them look like champions. Number 52, we have Elgin Baylor in 1962. He was having a great postseason run for the first 9 games, but it instantly went to legendary status in Game 5 of the finals. He recorded 61 points and 22 rebounds. That is the only time a player has scored over 60 points in a finals game, and it's the second time it's been done in the playoffs. But what puts this over the top is the 22 rebounds. He's only one of 4 players to record over 60 points and 20 rebounds. The other 3 players are Wilt Chamberlain, Shaq, and Luka Doncic. However, they only had such games in the regular season. Baylor did it in a critical finals game. Unfortunately, the Lakers lost in heartbreaking fashion in overtime of Game 7. Number 51, we have Allen Iverson in 2001. We haven't seen a one-man show like this since LeBron James in 2018. The only difference is that LeBron is over 10 inches and 90 pounds over Iverson. The degree of difficulty has to be a factor. Then there's all the records and legendary performances he had. He had a total of 6 games where he scored over 40 points. That's tied for the 4th most for a playoff run. That includes 2 50-point games. He had 44 points in Game 7 of the conference finals. Then the very next game, he had one of the most historic performances in the finals. He had 48 points and delivered one of the most memorable shots ever. He single-handedly defeated the most dominant playoff team ever, the Shaq and Kobe Lakers. Now we've reached the top 50. At number 50, we have John Havlicek in 1974. Hondo hit his career marks in terms of efficiency and win shares. Take for example his series against the New York Knicks. He averaged 29.6 points on 60% shooting. His best performance came in Game 3 of the first round series against the Buffalo Braves. He scored 43 points on 60% shooting, along with 12 rebounds and 8 assists. This playoff run almost went to another level when he made what would have been the title clinching shot in Game 6 of the finals. Kareem stole his moment in the next play. But in Game 7 on the road, he delivered Boston his first title since the retirement of Bill Russell. Number 49, we have Bill Russell in 1966. This makes the top 50 not for his numbers, but for how he was able to overcome unique circumstances. After destroying Wilt Chamberlain and the Sixers in the division finals, he made history in the finals that will never be duplicated. After a tough loss in Game 1, Red Auerbach made the curious move to step down as coach, and he named him the first player coach and African American coach in professional sports history. How did he handle that pressure? Well, he averaged 23.6 points on 54% shooting, 24.3 rebounds, and countless blocks. By the way, that's the most points he ever averaged in a playoff series. Number 48, we have Charles Barkley in 1993. One word to describe this playoff run is clutch. With the Suns facing elimination against the Lakers in the first round, he made the game-tying bucket off a miss that forced overtime. In Game 6 of the second round series against the Spurs, he made the game-winning shot over David Robinson. Then he had a 40-point triple-double in the conference finals. In Game 5, he recorded 43 points on 73% shooting, 15 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. Then in Game 7, he had the game of his life. He had 44 points on 60% shooting and 24 rebounds. Number 47, we have LeBron James in 2014. He was the definition of efficiency. There were 9 games where he shot over 60% from the field. His most efficient performance was also one of his greatest playoff games. In Game 4 against the Brooklyn Nets, he had 49 points on 67% shooting. He was just toying with his Eastern Conference opponents. His greatness was good enough to beat solid playoff teams, but not enough to defeat a historically great team like the Spurs. Number 46, we have Kevin Durant in 2018. The Warriors were historically dominant. They are currently third all-time for the highest point differential in playoff history. The Rockets were the only team that had a fair chance, but Kevin destroyed their hopes in Game 7. He took over in the second half by scoring over 10 points in the third and fourth quarters. In the finals, he had a historic shooting series. He shot 53% from the field, 41% from the three, and 96% from the free throw. This is only the second time that a player posted a 50-40-90 shooting splits in the finals while attempting more than 4 threes per game. Number 45, we have Magic Johnson in 1985. He put on a passing clinic for this playoff run. His 15.2 assists per game average is the highest mark ever. His best series came in the second round against the Blazers. He averaged 21.8 points on 57% shooting, 17 assists, and 7.6 rebounds per game. He also made some history in the finals against the Celtics. He averaged 14 assists per game, which is the highest in finals history. Number 44, we have Tim Duncan in 1999. In only his second season, he drove the Spurs to one of the most dominant playoff runs. They went 15-2. His most impressive showing came against the Lakers in the semifinals. He closed them out in dominant fashion when he had back-to-back 30-point games while pulling down 14 rebounds. Then he had his best series in the finals against the Knicks. He averaged 27.4 points on 53% shooting, 14 rebounds, and 2.2 blocks per game. Number 43, we have Moses Malone in 1983. This playoff run was made famous for how close the 76ers were to going undefeated. Moses made this team unbeatable. He did what he did best, and that's dominate the boards. His 15.8 rebounds per game average is the highest of any player to reach the finals post-merger. His presence could not have been felt more in the final game of the season. Against the Lakers, he recorded 24 points, 23 rebounds, and 3 blocks. Number 42, we have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in 1971. He had to face tough competition. He faced Nate Thurmond in the semifinals, Wilt Chamberlain in the conference finals, and Wes Unseld in the finals. The numbers that we saw proved that he had no issues against him. But what puts this over the top is the way he led his team to one of the most dominant playoff runs. They posted a margin of victory of 14.5 points, which is the highest ever. They also went 12-2 in the playoffs. They were so dominant that they beat the Warriors by 50 points in one game. Kareem was in the center of it all, and he deserves major props for that. Number 41, we have Rick Barry in 1975. For the NBA world, this was a title they were never expected to win. After going through the Western Conference opponents, they faced a Washington Bullets team that won 60 games, which was 12 games more than the Warriors. They ended up sweeping this team thanks to Barry's strong play. There were no other players from Golden State that averaged more than 12 points per game for the series. He was also clutch. They had 2 come-from-behind victories. He defeated a team with Elvin Hayes and Wes Unseld without a legitimate co-star. Number 40, we have Steph Curry in 2022. This playoff run was all about proving that he could win a Finals MVP, and he was on a mission to prove his doubters wrong. He did just enough to lead his team to the finals, and then his game went to another level. He averaged 31.2 points on 48% shooting, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals per game. He also shot 44% from the 3. His 31 made 3-pointers are second all-time for the most 3-pointers made in a final series. His signature performance came in Game 4 when he had 43 points on 54% shooting, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists. No super team was needed for this. Number 39, we have Kobe Bryant in 2010. His field goal percentage took a dip mainly because of the broken finger he was playing through, but he found a way to impact the game in other ways. His performance against the Suns in the Western Conference Finals might have been his best ever. He averaged 33.7 points on 52% shooting, 8.3 assists, and 7.2 rebounds per game. He dished over 10 assists in 3 games that series. The finals against the Celtics was an intense series that only featured 2 100-point scoring games. In Game 7, he couldn't find the basket, but he ended with 15 rebounds, which was more than any Celtics player. It was a dogfight, and Kobe came out on top. Number 38, we have Bill Walton in 1977. His numbers might not be overly impressive, but he dominated the game differently. He played great defense, he played great team ball, and he took over on offense when it was needed. The most impressive part is that Bill Walton did not have the greatest supporting cast, but he beat out some of the best players in the league. He beat Artis Gilmore and the Chicago Bulls, David Thompson and the Denver Nuggets, Kareem and the Lakers, and Julius Erving and the Philadelphia 76ers. He capped out this amazing playoff run by having one of the greatest all-around performances in the finals. In Game 6, he recorded 20 points on 53% shooting, 23 rebounds, 8 blocks, and 7 assists. Number 37, we have Bill Russell in 1962. This is his finest statistical postseason. He posted a career high in points, win shares, and PER. The degree of difficulty should also be a factor. In the division finals, he had to face Wilt Chamberlain, who averaged over 50 points per game in the regular season. But in Game 7, he was held to 22 points on 7 of 15 shooting. Then in the finals, he had to face Elgin Baylor and Jerry West. The series was pushed to 7 games. He had an incredibly clutch performance. He had 30 points on 44% shooting, 40 rebounds, and 4 assists. That is a record for the most rebounds in a finals game. Number 36, we have Steph Curry in 2017. The Warriors had the most dominant playoff run of all time, and he was the driving force. His best performance came against the Spurs in Game 1 of the conference finals. They were down by 20 points in the third quarter, and he brought his team back by scoring 19 points in the period. He ended the game with 40 points on 54% shooting. In the finals against the Cavaliers, he had one of the finest all-around performances of his playoff career. He averaged 26.8 points on 44% shooting, 9.4 assists, 8.8 rebounds, and 2.2 steals per game. Number 35, we have Kobe Bryant in 2001. The 0-1 Lakers are considered one of the greatest playoff teams. Kobe is a huge reason for their dominance. His historic run started in the fourth quarter of Game 3 against the Kings. He went for 15 points on 4 of 4 shooting in that period. In Game 4, he recorded 48 points on 52% shooting and 16 rebounds. In the very next game, he records 45 points on 54% shooting and 10 rebounds against the Spurs. Against the best defensive team in the league, he averaged 33.3 points on 51% shooting, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists. Number 34, we have Michael Jordan in 1997. He had so many historic moments. We first have his performance in Game 2 of the first round series against the Washington Bullets. He had 55 points on 63% shooting. That is tied with the 5th highest scoring total for a playoff game. In Game 1 of the finals, he had the most recent buzzer beater that occurred in the finals. He also had the infamous flu game in Game 5. He had 38 points and made a 3-pointer with 25 seconds left that ultimately won the game. Then in Game 6, he assisted on the title clinching shot by Steve Kerr. Number 33, we have LeBron James in 2020. He had one of the most complete playoff performances, and if we're talking about efficiency, LeBron was remarkable. His best performances include the 16-point fourth quarter that he had in Game 5 against the Nuggets that pushed LA to the finals. Then in Game 5 of the finals, he had the dominant stat line of 40 points on 71% shooting, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 steals. At the advanced age of 35, LeBron wasn't the same physical force, but he was still equally as dominant. Number 32, we have Kevin Durant in 2017. His biggest asset was his supremely efficient scoring ability. Take for example his numbers against the Spurs in the conference finals. He averaged 28 points on 60% shooting. But he saved his best for the finals. He averaged for the series 35.2 points on 56% shooting, 8.2 rebounds, and 5.4 assists per game. He also shot 47% from the three and 93% from the free throw line. Those numbers helped Durant become the most efficient scorer in NBA Finals history. The 35.2 points per game average is also the 10th highest average in Finals history. Number 31, we have Shaquille O'Neal in 2002. Once the Lakers were finally challenged in the playoffs, that's when the beast came out. Against the 61-win Sacramento Kings, he averaged 30.3 points on 53% shooting, 13.6 rebounds, and 2.4 blocks per game. When they were facing elimination, he had 41 points on 56% shooting, 17 rebounds, and 2 blocks. Then in the finals, Shaq was as dominant as he's ever been against the New Jersey Nets. He averaged 36.3 points on nearly 60% shooting, 12.3 rebounds, 3.8 assists, and 2.8 blocks per game. That is currently the 6th highest points per game average in the finals. Number 30, we have Steph Curry in 2015. With this championship, they dawned a new beginning in basketball. The Warriors won the title with Curry making the most three-pointers in playoff history. Too many teams were victims of his legendary shooting abilities. Take for example the Pelicans when he made 2 threes in the last 12 seconds that forced overtime. In the first 3 games of the conference finals against Houston, he shot a combined 18 of 31 from behind the arc. He averaged 31.2 points on 52% shooting, 5.6 assists, 4.6 rebounds, and 2 steals per game for the series. In the finals, the Cavaliers did a good job of not allowing Curry to have one of his monster games. However, he was unquestionably Golden State's best player. Number 29, we have Magic Johnson in 1988. From a statistical standpoint, he recorded his career high in win shares and value over replacement player rating. He also made history by recording the most assists in playoff history. He dished out a total of 303 assists. As great as the numbers are, his multitude of clutch performances is what ranks him this high. There were 3 times when the Lakers were pushed to 7 games. For those 3 games, he averaged a combined 22 points on 62% shooting, 13.7 assists, and 7.7 rebounds per game. When they were down 3-2 in the finals, Magic Johnson played a huge role in ruining Isaiah Thomas's greatest performance. He had 19 assists, which is tied for the 3rd highest mark in finals history. Number 28, we have LeBron James in 2017. His first big game came in the first round when he led his team to one of the biggest playoff comebacks. In Game 3, they won after being down by 25 points. He ended the game with 41 points on 52% shooting, 13 rebounds, 12 assists, and 2 blocks. He also went 6 of 12 from the 3-point line. Speaking of 3-point shooting, he averaged 43% for the playoffs. There were no weaknesses in his game at this point. In the finals, against arguably the greatest team ever, he became the only player to average a triple-double in the finals. He averaged 33.6 points on 56% shooting, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists per game. Number 27, we have Dirk Nowitzki in 2011. His numbers might not look staggering, but he deserves all the hype. As far as the degree of difficulty, he had to face Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. He dominated all of those legendary players. His best performance came in the conference finals. In Game 1, he had one of the most efficient scoring performances in playoff history. He had the stat line of 48 points on 12 of 15 shooting, and he went 24 of 24 from the free throw line. Then in Game 2 of the finals, he made the game-winning layup. That completed a historic comeback after being down by 15 points with 5 minutes remaining. Number 26, we have Jerry West in 1969. He was legendary out of necessity. His superstar teammates, Elgin Baylor and Will Chamberlain, were struggling. But in the finals against the Celtics, his level of play went to another level. He averaged 37.9 points on 49% shooting, 7.4 assists, and 4.7 rebounds per game. That is the 5th highest scoring mark in finals history. He had a 53-point performance in Game 2, which is the 3rd highest scoring game in the finals. His greatest performance came in Game 7. He had 42 points on 48% shooting, 13 rebounds, and 12 assists. His extraordinary play made him the only player to win Finals MVP while losing the series. Number 25, we have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in 1974. To have an idea of how dominant he was, check out his numbers against the Chicago Bulls in the conference finals. He averaged 34.8 points on 66% shooting, 19.5 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game. His best game in the playoffs came against this team. In Game 2, he had 44 points on 69% shooting, 21 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 3 assists. Then in the finals, he converted on one of the biggest shots in league history. He made the game-winning skyhook in double overtime that forced Game 7. He fell short of winning the title, but he was spectacular in defeat. Number 24, we have Michael Jordan in 1996. Believe it or not, there were times when he needed to carry the load for this 72-win team. Take for example Game 1 of the semifinals against the Knicks. He finished with 44 points on 49% shooting, which was nearly half of Chicago's points. But his best performance certainly came against the Orlando Magic in the conference finals. In Game 4, he recorded 45 points on nearly 70% shooting. I can't help but to think that Jordan was gunning for 45 points to end the Shaq and Penny era of the Orlando Magic. Number 23, we have Kobe Bryant in 2009. This is the greatest playoff run of his career, and the advanced metrics support his case. He currently has the 17th highest win shares and value over replacement player rating. His best series came in the conference finals against the Denver Nuggets. He averaged 34 points on 48% shooting. In Games 1 and 3, he had big fourth quarters that helped the Lakers escape with victory. In the finals, he had an exceptional all-around series. He averaged 32.4 points on 43% shooting, 7.4 assists, and 5.6 rebounds per game. Number 22, we have Magic Johnson in 1987. In their road to the finals, the Lakers didn't need Magic to bring the good stuff until they faced the Boston Celtics. That is where he made history. In Game 2, he posted 22 points on 59% shooting, 20 assists, 5 rebounds, and 3 steals. That is the only time a player recorded over 20 points and 20 assists in the finals. In Game 4, he converted one of the most iconic shots in finals history. He made the game-winning baby sky hook with 2 seconds remaining. For the series, he averaged the historic stat line of 26.2 points on 54% shooting, 13 assists, 8 rebounds, and 2.3 steals per game. Number 21, we have Larry Bird in 1986. The numbers displayed prove how great of an all-around performer he was. He recorded 3 triple-doubles, and there were 5 games where he shot over 60%. He was also a part of some outstanding but forgotten playoff moments. There was a game against the Atlanta Hawks where the Celtics went on a dominant 24-0 run in the third quarter. or the game against the Bucks where he outscored his opponent in the fourth quarter. After that performance, Milwaukee's coach Don Nelson called him the best player ever and that Bird plays on his own level. We shouldn't take lightly that people were calling him the GOAT during this playoff run. Number 20, we have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in 1980. What stood out the most was his efficiency. Out of the 15 games he played, he shot over 60% 8 times. He also shot over 70% for 3 of those 8 games. What puts his playoff run over the top is how he performed in the finals. He averaged 33.4 points on 55% shooting, 13.6 rebounds, 4.6 blocks, and 3.2 assists per game. His best performance came in Game 5. After spraining his ankle in the third quarter, he comes back in the fourth quarter and makes some big shots. That includes his and-one dunk with less than 40 seconds remaining. He ended up with 40 points on 67% shooting, 15 rebounds, and 4 blocks. Number 19, we have Giannis Antetokounmpo in 2021. Throughout this playoff run, he has some underrated clutch moments. Take for example the second round series when he went toe-to-toe with Kevin Durant. In Game 7, he recorded 40 points on 63% shooting, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists. The Bucks needed every bit of those points to withstand Durant's 48-point performance. But his play in the finals is what pushed his playoff run to another level. This series contained back-to-back performances where he recorded over 40 points and 10 rebounds. Only Shaq has accomplished that. Then in Game 6, he went for 50 points on 64% shooting, 14 rebounds, and 5 blocks. That is the 6th highest scoring total in the finals and the highest for a title-clinching game. Number 18, we have Wilt Chamberlain in 1967. This is the most statistically dominant player of all time, and this playoff run is just another example of that. He had 7 triple-doubles, which is tied for the second most ever. Of course, the triple-doubles that he recorded can't be compared to what anyone else was doing. Take for example the series against the Celtics when he averaged 21.6 points on 56% shooting, 32 rebounds, and 10 assists per game. In Game 3, this guy nearly posted over 20 points, 40 rebounds, and 10 assists. Throughout this playoff run, he showed the perfect blend of scoring, facilitating, and being the ultimate defensive anchor for his team. Number 17, we have LeBron James in 2018. This is undoubtedly the greatest playoff run by anyone that didn't win the title. He recorded the highest value over replacement player rating, the second most total points, and the 5th highest win shares. He had 8 40-point games, which is tied for the most ever for a playoff run. He was also extremely clutch. He had 2 buzzer beaters. There's one against the Pacers and another against the Raptors. What tops it all off is his performance in Game 1 of the finals. He would have defeated a super team by himself if it wasn't for an all-time blunder. He had 51 points on nearly 60% shooting, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. Number 16, we have Michael Jordan in 1998. I believe this is the best playoff run from Jordan's second three-peat. He posted the 9th highest win shares and points. At this point in his career, he knew every trick. His fundamentals were flawless, and he had a basketball IQ of 400. Those intangibles were on full display when his shot wasn't falling. When he shot 41% in Game 1 of the first round, he made the game-winning steal and dunk in overtime. When he shot 36% in Game 7 of the conference finals, he had 9 rebounds and 8 assists. He also held Reggie Miller scoreless in the fourth quarter. But his basketball brilliance was highlighted even more so in Game 6 of the finals. He scored 45 points, which is the second highest scoring total for a title-clinching game. And he made arguably the biggest and most iconic shot in NBA history that won the Bulls their 6th title. Number 15, we have Larry Bird in 1984. His advanced numbers were legendary. He posted the 5th highest value over replacement player rating and 12th highest win shares. In every series, he seemed to showcase something different about his greatness. In the first round, he was a great defender. He averaged 2.3 blocks and 2 steals per game. In the second round, he was clutch against the Knicks. In Game 7, he had 39 points on 54% shooting, 12 rebounds, 10 assists, and 3 steals. But his game went to another level in the finals. In Game 4, he made the game-winning jumper with 16 seconds left in overtime. In Game 5, the Boston Garden did not have air conditioning, and the stadium was at 97 degrees Fahrenheit. These conditions caused Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to shoot 28% from the field, but Larry had 34 points on 75% shooting. Number 14, we have Kawhi Leonard in 2019. Let's start with the numbers. He posted 7th highest win shares and 9th highest value over replacement player rating. His performance in the second round against the Sixers is what pushes this into top 10 territory. He started by recording 45 points on nearly 70% shooting and 11 rebounds. Even with Jimmy Butler guarding him, who was a good defender, there was no stopping him. But nothing was bigger than his Game 7 performance. He had 41 points, and he made one of the biggest shots ever. He made the only buzzer beater in the Game 7. In the conference finals against the Bucks, he did a commendable job of containing Giannis in the final 4 games of the series. Then in the finals, he was the team's leading scorer and rebounder. He outdueled Steph Curry and delivered Toronto its only title in franchise history. Number 13, we have Nikola Jokic in 2023. Here's everything that he accomplished. He has the highest PAR from any player that's ever reached the finals, let alone won the whole thing. He had a total of 10 triple-doubles, which is the most in NBA history. He recorded the most assists by any center in the playoffs. As far as his notable performances, he had 53 points on 67% shooting, 11 assists, and 4 rebounds against the Phoenix Suns. In Game 3 of the finals, he recorded 32 points on 57% shooting, 21 rebounds, and 10 assists. That is the only time that a player posted a 30-20-10 game in the finals. For the series, he averaged 30.2 points on 58% shooting, 14 rebounds, and 7.2 assists per game. Number 12, we have Hakeem Olajuwon in 1995. No one has had to face a tougher road to the title, and he dominated as few ever have before. He posted the 3rd highest points per game average from a player who won the title, the 4th most points, and the 8th most blocks. In the second round, he helped the Rockets come back from a 3-1 deficit. That includes making the game-tying bucket with 8 seconds left in Game 5 that saved their season. In the conference finals, against a strong defender in David Robinson, he averaged the insane stat line of 35.3 points on 56% shooting, 12.5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4.2 blocks per game. He had 3 40-point games that series. Then in the finals, he had another legendary moment. In overtime of Game 1, he made the game-winning tip-in with 0.3 seconds left. In the end, they became the lowest seed to ever win the title. Number 11, we have LeBron James in 2013. He recorded the 4th highest win shares and value over replacement player rating. It confirms how valuable he was for his team that struggled a lot in the postseason. For example, in the conference finals against the Pacers team that won 17 fewer games, the series went to 7 games. LeBron, however, did his part. In Game 1, he posted a 30-point triple-double while making the buzzer-beating layup. Speaking of clutch play, we also have to mention his performances in the final 2 games of the finals. He had a 16-point fourth quarter in Game 6 that brought the Heat back from the dead. Then in Game 7, he recorded 37 points on 52% shooting, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. So why snub him from the top 10? The very brief explanation is how close they were to losing this series, along with the 3 straight games the Spurs held him to under 18 points. It was one too many underwhelming performances for my taste. We've now reached the top 10. At number 10, we have Shaquille O'Neal in 2001. This was essentially part 2 of his legendary playoff run in 2000. His best stretch came in the semifinals against the Kings. In Game 1, he went for the monster stat line of 44 points on 53% shooting, 21 rebounds, 7 blocks, and 4 assists. Then he did it all over again in the following game. He had 43 points on 69% shooting, 20 rebounds, and 3 blocks. That's back-to-back 40-20 games. He would record that stat line yet again in the finals. In Game 1, he had 44 points on 61% shooting and 20 rebounds. They suffered their only loss of the postseason, so he decided to focus on the defensive end. In Game 2, he nearly recorded a quadruple-double. He had 28 points, 20 rebounds, 9 assists, and 8 blocks. Being the best player on arguably the greatest playoff team helps him reach the top 10. Number 9, we have Michael Jordan in 1992. He started by making history. In the first round series against Miami, he averaged 45 points on 61% shooting, 9.7 rebounds, 6.7 assists, and 3 steals per game. In Game 3, he recorded 56 points on 67% shooting. That is tied for the 4th highest playoff scoring game. In the next series against the Knicks, the Bulls were pushed to the limit. This is where he forced his will, despite his teammates struggling on offense. The perfect example of this came in Game 7. He recorded 42 points on 52% shooting, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks, and 2 steals. In the finals against Portland, he gave us a pair of legendary moments. There was the iconic shrug game, where he went for 35 points on 6 made 3-pointers in the first half. Then in Game 5, he went for 46 points on 61% shooting. That's the 10th highest scoring game in the finals. Number 8, we have Dwayne Wade in 2006. This legendary run started in the conference finals. They played against the Detroit Pistons, who are widely regarded as one of the greatest offensive teams ever. But they had no answers for the Flash. There were 3 games where he shot over 70% from the field. For the series, he averaged 26.7 points on 62% shooting. After losing the first 2 games of the finals, he turned into peak Michael Jordan. In the final 4 games, he nearly averaged over 40 points per game. He was also extremely clutch, just like his airness. He had a 15-point fourth quarter in Game 3, and then he had 21 total points in the fourth quarter and overtime of Game 5. That includes making the game-tying bucket with 2.8 seconds left in the fourth quarter. For the series, he averaged 34.7 points on 47% shooting. No one else for the Heat averaged over 14 points. The reality is that Miami's title was more about the greatness of one player than of the team. Number 7, we have Hakeem Olajuwon in 1994. Here's what he accomplished. He is the only player to have led his team in points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals for a title-winning team. He also has the record for the most blocks for a playoff run. We have never seen a player carry their team on both ends of the floor as Hakeem did. The best example of that came in Game 2 of the first round series against the Blazers. He had 46 points on 53% shooting, 8 rebounds, 6 blocks, 4 assists, and 4 steals. When he was pushed to the limit by a tough Phoenix Suns team in the semifinals, he responded with a clutch performance. In Game 7, he had 37 points on 55% shooting, 17 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 blocks. His best defensive performance was in the series-clinching Game 5 against the Utah Jazz. He had 7 blocks and 4 steals. Speaking of defense, he completely shut down Patrick Ewing in the finals. He was held to 18.9 points on 36% shooting for the series. The Rockets didn't have anyone else who averaged over 14 points for the playoffs, which makes his postseason run so impressive. Number 6, we have Michael Jordan in 1993. What you're looking at is the highest points per game average for a player that won the title. Some of his most notable performances includes the buzzer beater he made against the Cavaliers in Game 4 of the semifinals. In the conference finals against the Knicks, he recorded 54 points on 60% shooting in Game 4. But it was his performance in the finals that makes his top 5 worthy. He averaged 41 points on 51% shooting, 8.5 assists, and 6.3 rebounds per game. That is the highest scoring average for the finals. He scored over 40 points in 4 straight games. That includes his Game 4 performance when he had 55 points on 58% shooting. That's the second highest scoring game in NBA Finals history. Number 5, we have LeBron James in 2016. He started by destroying his Eastern Conference opponents. 9 of their 12 victories were by double digits. But things got a lot more difficult when he faced the greatest regular season team of all time in the finals. They proved their dominance after going up 3-1 in the series. What he did in the next 3 games was the stuff of legends. On the road, he went for 41 points on 53% shooting, 16 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. In Game 6, he goes for 41 points on 59% shooting, 11 assists, 8 rebounds, 4 steals, and 3 blocks. Then in Game 7, he recorded a triple-double and he made the greatest offensive play of all time. It's the Iguodala block that saved their championship hopes. For the series, he averaged 29.7 points on 49% shooting, 11.3 rebounds, 8.9 assists, 2.6 steals, and 2.3 blocks per game. He imposed his will in every single aspect of the game. That was needed to achieve the greatest finals comeback ever. Number 4, we have Shaquille O'Neal in 2000. He posted the 6th most points and 10th most rebounds for a playoff run. This is how it all started. In the first game of the playoffs, he went for 46 points on 64% shooting, 17 rebounds, 5 blocks, and 2 steals. He set the tone right from the beginning. Teams were forced to throw 3 to 4 players at him just to contain this beast. He would usually end up dunking on their team anyway. No team suffered more than the Indiana Pacers. There were 3 games during that final series where he scored over 40 points. There were 3 instances where he shot over 60% from the field. He had 40 points, 24 rebounds, and 3 blocks in Game 2. For the series, he averaged 38 points on 61% shooting, 16.7 rebounds, and 2.7 blocks per game. That's the 4th highest scoring average in the finals. Number 3, we have Tim Duncan in 2003. He recorded the highest win shares and the 2nd highest value over replacement player rating. He also recorded the 2nd most blocks and the 8th most rebounds. He became only the 3rd player since the merger to win a title while being the only player on the team to average more than 15 points. You can't win a title under those circumstances unless you're a dominant player. That was especially showcased against the Lakers when he ended the Kobe and Shaq dynasty. In Game 6, he had 37 points on 64% shooting, 16 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 blocks. In the following 2 series, he proved why he's the greatest power forward of all time. There were so many games where his numbers looked like it came straight out of a video game. There are too many to mention, but we'll highlight his best performances in the finals. In Game 3, in the title-clinching game, he had an unofficial quadruple-double. I'm sure all the Spurs fans can attest to that. He had 21 points, 20 rebounds, 10 assists, and 8 blocks. For a playoff run that is filled with all-time great numbers, he topped it all off with arguably the greatest finals game. Number 2, we have LeBron James in 2012. Let's first start with a statistical case. He recorded the highest offensive win shares, the 2nd highest win shares, and the 3rd highest value over replacement player rating. It's also important to remember that this playoff run was not a cakewalk. They lost Chris Bosh to injury in the semifinals, and he did not play until Game 5 of the conference finals. He needed to carry the weight of the team on his broad shoulders. According to the numbers, he did it in a way no player has before. Take for example Game 4 against the Pacers when he had 40 points on 52% shooting, 18 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. But nothing was bigger when he saved his team's season in his greatest playoff performance. In Game 6, he went for 45 points on 73% shooting, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists. Remember, he defeated the Big 3 Celtics with only Dwayne Wade by his side. With the gang back together in the finals, they used a team effort to defeat the Thunder. LeBron had an exceptional all-around performance. He averaged 28.6 points on 47% shooting, 10.2 rebounds, and 7.4 assists per game. Number 1, we have Michael Jordan in 1991. The case that placed this in the number 1 spot is due to his all-around excellence and the dominant postseason record the Bulls had. They went 15-2. In both games, they lost by 2 points, and both times an opponent made a game-winning three-pointer. It was as complete of a playoff run as a player could have. From a statistical standpoint, he recorded the second highest box plus minus, the 6th highest offensive box plus minus, and the 7th highest value over replacement player rating. If you want scoring, he showed that in Game 3 against the Sixers when he had 46 points on 59% shooting, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, and 4 blocks. If you want rebounding, he showed that in Game 5 of the same series. He had 19 rebounds along with 38 points and 7 assists. He even out-rebounded the great Charles Barkley. If you want defense, he showed that in Game 3 against the Pistons when he had 5 blocks and 3 steals. And if you want playmaking, he did that all series long in the finals. He averaged 11.4 assists per game. That's the 7th highest assist per game mark in the finals, and it's the highest by any player not named Magic Johnson. And he also averaged 2.4 steals per game, which is the 4th highest mark in the finals. On top of all that, he averaged 31.2 points on 56% shooting. He was as perfect as you can ever get in the playoffs. A special thank you to all of you who watched this countdown. What is your personal greatest playoff runs of all time list? Which rankings did you agree or disagree with? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.